Hi, my name is Sandra To-Tran, and I did my paper on Clara Barton. Clara Barton was one of many individuals to impact the history of medicine, and she did so by creating the American Red Cross. Around the age of 11 was when Clara had experienced firsthand how it felt taking care of a person in need. That person was her older brother, David, who had gotten severely injured during this time. In a book she published called The Story of My Childhood, she recalls how much pain David had felt. She was severely distraught by how her brother looked, that she chose to stay by his side every single day and took care of him until he regained health. As years had passed by, she had chose to pursue a career in teaching. Clara was actually perceived to be a shy and underconfident character, but that didn't stop her from being able to teach. In 1852, she was actually able to establish the first public school in New Jersey. By 1854, she decided to move to Washington, D.C. and work at the U.S. Patent Office. She had established a reputation there by vocally expressing herself about equality and receiving the same pay as a man did at the time. She actually became known as the highest paid female clerk there. In 1861, the Civil War had started, which made Clara shift her focus away from her job at the Patent Office and into attending to the soldiers who were wounded on the battlefield. She did so by distributing necessary medical supplies to hospitals that were placed on the battlefield. She was so courageous for her efforts that people nicknamed her as the Angel of the Battlefield. In 1865, when the Civil War had ended, she actually developed a program that was approved by President Lincoln that was able to trace thousands of missing or deceased men back to their families. Around 1869, her doctor had actually advised her to get some rest and relax, in which she decided to take a trip to Europe. Upon that trip, she traveled to Geneva, Switzerland, where she learned about the International Red Cross. The International Red Cross is a war relief organization in assisting those wounded in wartime and was established through the Geneva Treaty. Around the time the treaty had actually got established, the Franco-Prussian War had started. Clara decided to help and care for the soldiers that were in need. She actually also studied how the organization worked. And then by 1876, she decides to move back to New York and actually came back with the idea of creating the American Red Cross. She spent many years spreading the word of the idea by distributing pamphlets and lectures explaining how useful it would be if America had their own Red Cross. By 1881, she was finally able to get the idea approved by President Arthur. So finally, the American Red Cross was established into a legal organization to assist during wartime, disasters, and so on, but also aid individuals in need. In 1904, she had actually published a book called A Story of the Red Cross, Glimpses of the Fieldwork, in which she recalls many major disasters that she had provided assistance to during the time she served, which would be the Ohio River floods, Texas famine, and the typhoid fever epidemic in New York. But also around the same time, which is still 1904, she had actually resigned from being president of the American Red Cross due to her major criticism of the way she was running the program and her style and her age because she was getting older. But that didn't stop her. She actually then established the National First Aid Association of America. This association was more focused on applying like first aid techniques and developing first aid kits. In 1907, she had actually finally decided to retire, and by 1912, she had passed away at the age of 90 at Glen Echo, Maryland. And this concludes my paper on Clara Barton.